How we doing, guys? Another quick video for you. I want to talk a little bit today about Rev 6 style boards that have no fuse on them. Now, the idea with the lack of fuse was, one, because customers were pushing them and blowing fuses, so eliminate the fuse, I guess was the idea. Then they didn't feel it was needed in this design of board, and they felt that the controller would shut them down, and that all modern power supplies, good power supplies, quality power supplies are going to have basically overload protection, short circuit protection built into them to prevent damage. And what we saw when we started really hitting the market pretty hard with repairs is we started getting in these Rev 6s that look like this, where we have holes in the CSD, arc really, really bad. In some cases, it has destroyed the traces, welded the chip itself to the trace. Now, if we cannot get the CSD off during repairs because of this, because of an overamp condition that has welded the CSD, we don't fix them. We advise the customer that we're not going to do it, because this is a primary current carrying device. If this was a controller chip that had a bad trace, we would change the trace out, because we're not talking about a high amp load, high wattage load trace. But when these get welded and blown out and have to be, and basically they're useless and we've got to try to extend them, we don't have a lot of faith in that repair. I'm not saying that we couldn't do it. I'm not saying that it isn't possible. It's possible to botch it together. I could use solder braid, I could solder wick, there's a lot of different things you can do. So when we get them in like this, we take a really close look at these traces right here and see if there's signs of welding, and we advise the customer, hey, just FYI, if we can't get this chip off, there's nothing we can do for you. The board's pretty much done at that point, because we're not going to try and botch together a repair if we're unsure if we're not confident that it's going to be able to carry the load. Okay, we won't do it. So again, other trace repairs are absolutely possible. I actually just today fixed a customer that had reversed the polarity on the XT30 connector. He was doing his own wiring for what I would assume to be like an external Meanwell type power supply. Reversed the polarity and blew this chip out, just blew it up. It took out the traces here, or this is a one big power plane. It took out the connection here between these two capacitors and this copper plane, and it blew out the 3-pin connections here. This is a 12 volt to 5 volt converter. And I was luckily able to fix it. The resistor here, which is actually, this is a ground plane, this resistor here blew its entire trace completely out. So I had to basically recreate that trace and then shift this chip far enough that I could get contact on what was remaining of this power plane. And I was able to do it. It took me a long time. It was a lot of work. And then I, solder masked it down so that it would stay stable. Obviously it was soldered, but still, I wanted to try and give it as much support as I could. And I was able to get the miner saved and back up and running, but not a fun time, but also doesn't carry a ton of current. All right, this 12 volt to 5 volt basically comes over here, and that 5 volt is used amongst various circuits and power the display. So that 5 volt will come in here, it runs into the controller chip, but it doesn't carry major loads. Whereas these CSDs, these 5-6 pins here are all connected to the same plane. They're carrying the main current. So we typically will not fix them if they're welded. Now this one is not welded, but if I go to take it off and it doesn't want to come off, I'll advise the customer and we'll go from there. But we've seen lots of them. I mean, I can pull out, let's see how many more I have on my bench. Examples. I just cleaned my bench up the other day. Oh, there's one. There's one. Yeah, I've got some of these that are so blown out, I was amazed I could get them off the board. Okay. The reason I'm bringing this up is because we never saw this problem, and we still to this day do not see this occurrence on any of the Rev 5.1 boards where we have an onboard fuse. And we notice that as a gap. Now look, I understand the theory behind why they eliminated the fuse and their thought process on it. But the reality is what we're seeing coming across the table for repairs. And that's this. That's situations. Typically, I think in every single case, the customer has had an external power supply, like a Meanwell. They're running it. They come home one day, or they are home, and all of a sudden the miner shuts down. They don't have to necessarily be overclocked. But they're running these large, let's say Meanwell 350 watt or 600 watt power supplies, so they can run them on multiple devices, a single power supply. And that CSD shorts, which is a common failure, right? I mentioned in another video, the ASICs and the CSDs, in my mind, in my thought process, are the two components that do the most work on these boards. And the CSDs fail. It's a failure point for sure. So I got hundreds of them on my bench here that I've replaced over just this last month alone. So when this occurs and you're connected to a external power supply, if the power supply doesn't react quick enough to that, the wattage consumed, the amperage load pulled through that shorted CSD is going to peak out until that power supply realizes what's going on, and this is the result of it. Okay, we only see it on Rev 6 boards, and well, specifically Rev 6 variations of boards that don't have fuses. So what we did is we said, well, that's, really unfortunate. I hate giving customers bad news about, hey, your board is unfortunately trash now. There's nothing we can do for you. You may be able to find somebody that wants to take on that liability, or thinks that they can do it and have it look halfway decent and still function the way it needs to function. But we're not doing that. So we said was, look, let's give the customer the option to add some added protection. And it's controversial. I understand. I've talked to the creators of the BitAxe project. We've definitely had conversations about it, and theoretically, you shouldn't need this, but the reality is what we're seeing. Okay, we're seeing this pretty consistently. I probably get VREGs in this, that are in this worse of condition or this bad a condition once or twice a week. And I probably see a board I can't fix because the VREG is welded to it, 3 or 4 times a month, 5 times a month. And that's more than we should be seeing. So we worked with a supplier, and we created an inline fuse that ties in from your main power supply. So I'll use an example because I use it on my bench. Plugs right into your XT30 connector from your power supply, and then we put a 90-degree angle on it so that it fits nice on a stand and looks decent, but gives you the fuse protection. We ship it with 10-amp fuses, and you can change it. It's automotive style fuse, so you can swap it out. So the intention of this is just to add protection for your device. If it were to occur, it wouldn't allow your board to get this bad. You get to the 8 to 10 amp draw, it's going to blow that fuse, and it's going to prevent that CSD from welding itself to the board, which is definitely a good thing. So we carry these on our website for $5.99, which, to be completely honest with you, is cheap insurance to protect your investment. You don't want to have that conversation with me after you've sent a repair into me and I say, I'm sorry, man, there's nothing I can do for you. I can't get it off. And I've had to email plenty of customers with pictures of their boards and the CSD welded to it, to the trace, and said, your $300 miner's garbage. So, and it doesn't matter who makes them, who makes the board. We see it on all of them. That lack of fuse and customers running external power supplies, it can happen. And it does happen, unfortunately. So we created these short pigtails, inline fuses. You can find them on our website, xtech.xyz. Click on the Explorer NerdX++. These work on any miner with an XT30. So things like GT, stuff like that. And it's an added piece of insurance. Some added protection. We use 16 AWG wire that's rated to carry the current. Pretty high quality. Name brand connectors. It's a pretty good piece of insurance. And for $5.99, can't beat it. So check us out on my website. Pick yourself up one if you need it. Thanks for your time.